We know that with the Australia trip, Black Round kind of assembled a group of producers. Like we talked to Bud already, we talked to J-Dub, and we know you guys were out there. Was there any type of competition between you guys when creating the music out there, or was there some sort of camaraderie? What was it like between you producers out there?
Actually, I mean, it's funny because it really wasn't even a competition. Because like us, like I like J-Dub's production, I like Bud's production. We were all kind of fans of each other from the production, and we all had done previous things, so we were all kind of fans of each other, what we had already done. So I mean, and we were all like cool outside from the studio and outside from the music. Like we all pretty much were cool, like we all got along, like we were all boys and stuff. So on that particular album, like we collectively just were like, we just want to try to make the best possible album that we can. And that was the whole idea of us when we even went in the studio, because it was almost crazy, because we would have a studio like we were in one room, J-Dub had another room, and Butter had another room. So pretty much between Static and Black, they would just kind of bounce around to the various rooms. And kind of, because like it's almost funny because they don't really write the Static work, like they don't write lyrics down like all over their head. So it was almost amazing to say, okay, you'll come in here and you're working on a song in here, okay, then you'll go over there and then you'll go in the other room and you have 10 or 12 songs at one time floating around in your head, and you're still able to put them all down and not shortchange any of the songs. So, it was just one of those things. Like, we all were cool. We would all, we hung out and everything. So, it was one of those things where it was like, okay, we knew if we were working on something, like Static might be in there with Butter. Okay, Black would be in there with us. And then like later on that day, Static might come in and say, oh yeah, I got the verse for that other joint here. Give me a track. Let me lay the verse. So, I mean, it was really like a family, it was really like a family type of thing. So there wasn't any like hostility or anything recording that album. And I think that's why the album came out the way it did, because nobody was competing to try to outproduce, say, somebody else. Like, everybody had their own style and their own knowledge of music to bring to the table. So that made it like a collective effort from everybody, because we knew that each person was going to bring fire to the project. So it was like, it wasn't even the issue of what it was. You know what I mean? It was like, oh, we know that this is going to be a great record, because every so often, like about every week or so, we would all just kind of go. We might go sit in one of the rooms and just like play like records or the tracks that that we had all kind of worked on for the project. And, everybody was kind of in agreement, like, yeah, this is going to be a great album. Like, because, it's too much fire, coming through the speakers in the studios for it not to be. And, we had, like, great writers and Static and Black, so we just kind of knew that, like, yeah, this album could very well potentially be, like, a classic album. Okay. So I think that whole vibe right there is really made the album come out the way it did. Because I think if it was a lot of beef, man, and like, oh man, he did that joke, well, let me go try to do something better. I think if we kind of had that idea, I think all of us as producers, we wouldn't have really been in our element, like where we really are. Everybody just kind of went in and did them. And we did what we did, J-Dub did what he does, Butter did what he does, Tim did what he does, and they just collectively just all came together. And I think a lot of that reason had to do with the fact that, like, Static being such a great writer, he had a different connection with each one of us as producers. So, and I think that's why the songs came out so good, because he was really, like I said, he was the first one really that even knew that, like, myself and Eric, that we actually produced. Because at that time, Eric was still out with my Stewart, so he wasn't even there. But whenever, like, he wasn't out with Montel, or we wasn't out with Playa or Timbaland and Magoo, we were always in the studio, back in LA. So we had built up such a large library. And the day when Static just happened to have, I just happened to have it with me. know, he liked us. He liked our sound to the point where he mentioned it to Tim and he mentioned it to Missy. So then, you know, the next time we did a show with Missy, she came to me about it, and then the next time we were in New York with Tim, he came to me and approached, and I was thinking, like, who told them? How do they know this? But then, of course, I got back, and Static was like, yeah, I told him. You know, I told him, like, you guys have a unique sound. So, you know, it's really like I credit all the time. I credit Chef Crawford for even giving, like, me the opportunity to even work with that camp, and then that's from the live side, and then from the production side, I always credit Static because he's the one that really, I guess you say, vouched for us. Because like we had worked with them, but you know we never were the type to kind of be like, oh here, let me give you some tracks, like check these out. We never really did that. But when Static just came to me, you know, I was like, well, yeah, I was like, yeah, we have some stuff. So then that's when I played for him and during the break on one of our rehearsals, and I mean, it was pretty much that's what started the whole snowball effect.
Yeah. Okay, cool. One more question about the whole Aaliyah album, and that's, you know, what was Aaliyah's spirit like in the studio while she was working on the album, while she was recording, and around you guys and all that? What do you remember about that?
Like, first of all, she was real cool. I will give that. She was a real cool artist. Like, we actually even, like on days we were working, we actually, because me and Sheets actually lived in New York for a little while, and her place was maybe like 5 or 6 blocks from ours. So she always came over and just hung out. So it's like we already kind of had a cool vibe, and you know, like I was her music director, so you know we always were on the road and stuff doing shows and whatnot. So one thing I will say, she was real cool, and you know, you say people are down to earth, but she was really like that. It wasn't like any stress or strain. She wasn't on no deep type stuff where, you know, she would just come in. And the other thing I will say, she was very precise, and she was very fast, like in the booth. Like, it didn't really take an issue. Like, for the most part, Static hardly ever had to write the words down for her, because she would come in the studio. She might listen down to the song one time, and then she'd be like, okay, you just give it to me line for line while I go in there. And he would just go in there, and he would kind of like come up, and he would sing her a couple of lines. Okay, then you give her a track, and she would basically lay it. It wasn't even like a long, drawn-out process. But, you know, because she was still like, she had so many other things she was doing, so she wouldn't really sit in the studio all day. But she might say, okay, you know, we might go in at 2 in the afternoon. She'll say, okay, I'm going to come in around 7. She come in at 7. She might stay 3 or 4 hours, and, you know, she'll lay a whole song. And then it's like, okay, so it was always like that. So she was always good and precise, and she was very, very good at her craft. And before I even worked with her, I was already a fan from the One in a Million album and from the Aging Number the Number album. But it gave me a whole new outlet to actually see her in the studio, and I was like, oh yeah, she's very, very talented. Like, really, like, I was like, okay, because, you know, you work with some singers, and if it wasn't for like Pro Tools and a lot of things, it wouldn't really come out right. But she didn't really have that problem, and it was just like refreshing for me to see somebody who I already liked her music, and then I actually got a chance to work with her, and it was like, okay, yeah, she's actually a real artist. She's talented. She doesn't just look good. She's not just a dancer. She can sing too, and she can deliver the song. Like, and she would always take the songs that's, you know, Static and Black, whoever wrote for her, and she found a way that even though she didn't write it, she found a way to make it her own. So, you know, that's one thing. That's one thing that was like shocking to a lot of people, because they were like, well, wow, she didn't write any songs on this album, but it was like, but you wouldn't be able to tell that from how she delivered, and she always delivered the song like it was her own. Yeah.
Wow, that's real cool. And then there's one more thing I got to ask you about. You know, I'm a big Playa fan as well, and you and Seats produced my favorite Playa song, and that's Incense Burning. You know, can you just tell me, you know, how you guys put together that song?
That again, it was another track. Like we always, like me and Seats, like Static and Black, they were all, and the Playa too as a group, they were always in New York, but like sometimes, you know, they would go back home. Louisville, and but like at that time, me and Seeks pretty much were staying in New York like full time. So we were always in the studio, always doing tracks, and then when they approached us, when Barry and Jomo approached us about doing the songs for the soundtrack for Action Wounds, so we were like, oh, we're gonna do a song with Playa. So they were like, oh, we gotta find a song. So we were like, okay, well, while you guys were back in Kentucky, we did a few tracks. Let's play you some. So that song came on, and it's like instantly the hook when it's a song that he likes, he catches a vibe fast. It doesn't take a long time. So like if a song comes on and he doesn't catch a vibe, he'll just go to the next one. But when one comes on and he catches a vibe, he catches it fast. And when that song came on, he just he got quiet, and I could tell he was kind of thinking or whatever. And then, like as it went along, he was like, "Oh man, this is what I'm gonna talk about on this one." And then he sung the whole hook. He just sung the whole hook. I got my incense burning and my house shoes on, and it was just like that's how the whole song came about. And I believe him and Black, if I'm not mistaken, they both wrote that song.
Oh wow.
So it was just one of those ones where it's like, I guess they like that, they like the vibe of that track. So when it came on, they instantly was like, oh yeah, that's it. And we actually recorded that song and didn't really know that was going to be the song that they were going to use for soundtrack. Because we were always doing songs with Playa all the time. Even when we would be in the studio, we would work on a lot of different things, but we were always just writing new songs. So when it came time to really narrow down and say, oh, we're going to put a Playa song on that soundtrack, that was the song that everybody felt would be right for that. So that was the song they chose collectively to go on that soundtrack.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's all we have for you, man. Thank you so much for sharing these stories with us. We really appreciate it, and you gave us exactly what we were looking for, and the readers are going to love these stories. So we'll definitely keep you posted when we publish this article next week, probably. So just thank you so much again, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime, man. Anytime. I'll be glad to do it, man. Anytime.
Cool. Thank you so much, man. You have a good night.
You too, man. Thanks.
Take care. Bye.